Hello, and welcome to today's conversation, the inside view on the CPG CIO, coming to you straight from SAP Sapphire. I'm Bennett Richardson, President of Protocol. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to our partners at SAP for making today's event possible. At Protocol, we aim to arm you as decision makers in technology, business, and policy with actionable news and analysis to help you do your job. The world of consumer retail is changing faster than ever before, and no one is playing a more important role in that transformation than the CIO. Today you'll hear from two of the world's top CIOs at leading consumer packaged goods companies on the role of enterprise tech in transforming their businesses. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to sign up for Protocol's enterprise newsletter and our entire family of newsletters at protocol.com/newsletters. To kick things off, I'm excited to be here today with Stephanie Nashawaty, Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Innovation Officer at SAP. Stephanie's 700-person organization has the technical and industry expertise to overcome challenges and unlock value for SAP's customers. Drawing upon Stephanie's 25 years in the industry and having worked for many software tech companies in strategy and sales, Stephanie works directly with executives at some of SAP's most strategic customers to guide them among their business transformations. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for having us.
Thanks.
So Stephanie, to kick things off, Sapphire is back in person for the first time in 2 years. Why is that exciting?
We are all so excited to be back here, and if you're out on the showroom floor, you'll just see customers engaging together and partners and people shouting each other's name. It feels like everyone's just so excited to be back in person again because, well, SAP brings our best and brightest to help our customers here, where a lot of the learning happens is through these customer-to-customer interactions and engagements. And what you may have noticed about the show floor is it's a completely different design this year. It's curated to be these intimate conversations, the seating arrangements, the flow. So it's a whole new space. And some of the exciting news coming out of Sapphire are some of the announcements we're making. For me, I'm very excited about a recent announcement we made about a warehouse robotics solution. And why that is exciting is I have great empathy for the people working in warehouses whose job is to sort, pack, select, ship goods out to all of us. And they're expected to do this at incredibly high volumes and incredible efficiency and very, very quickly. And this new solution will allow them to do that. And any solution we have that puts that kind of power in the palm of an end user makes me really happy.
No, that's amazing. And to think about that, those cloud level software and innovation, making it all the way down to that factory warehouse floor is fascinating. You talked about those new announcements and innovations this week. All year long, SAP has made it clear there's big bets on the cloud and its own transformation. What are some of the key industry trends that are emerging as you all are making that big bet on the cloud?
So as far as industry trends go, I think there are many things we are seeing. Obviously, I think you may hear today when you talk to your CPG CIOs that with inflation ticking up a little bit, we expect consumers to be seeking value. We expect to see e-commerce continue to explode. And the third area that everyone is talking about is supply chain. Before the pandemic, that was just not something that I think consumers thought much about. But with the pandemic, it's made its way into mainstream news. It's in our living rooms. Everyone is realizing how important having a resilient, agile supply chain is. And as companies thought about the supply chain as linear, and they really looked at it and tried to make it as efficient as possible. What the pandemic and other events like the ice storms in Texas have shown us all is how interconnected we all really are. And that need for data and visibility is so critical. And it's also fueling another mega trend around sustainability.
No, absolutely. And sustainability is a great topic to move to. Especially interesting for us, we just launched Protocol Climate a few weeks ago. Everyone's talking about sustainability, huge investments and priorities for SAP. You can see it on the show floor today. Tell us about why should the market care about sustainability and why are these solutions really important?
So it's definitely on every boardroom agenda, and some of that's being driven by consumer demand, some of that's driven by activist investors, it's been driven by financial regulation or new taxes, but it is a sticky problem and companies are really scrambling to keep up. And I think that SAP is in a very unique position to help address this, given that 87% of global commerce touches an SAP system. So we recognize that we can't solve this alone. Customers can't solve it alone. It's going to take us all leaning in, public and private sector.
Yeah, and as you're thinking about that and collaborating with those customers, what are some of the specific challenges that they're facing in the sustainability space?
Well, the first question we always get is where to start. It's a big problem. But sustainability is all about transparency and accountability. and you can't manage what you can't measure. And the fact is that over 85% of companies are using Excel spreadsheets to manage their ESG reporting today. So, we think that technology can be brought to bear to help, and SAP for over 50 years has helped people manage their financial ledgers, and people trust the auditability of that data. And now they're really looking to us to say, can you help me with my green ledger? Can you help me holistically manage my financial data, social data, my industry data, and put that all in one platform for me to consume?
No, absolutely. I mean, you all have done so much to manage those other sources of data. It makes sense that sustainability ESG data would be a key part of that. As we wrap up, you mentioned that you've worked in a number of big tech organizations in the industry. Would love to hear, what is unique for you about your work here at SAP?
So SAP is a very, very collaborative environment. I've talked about that a lot with our employees and with our customers. We're very collaborative. We have a very open ecosystem. But at the end of the day, we also build really great products. And as an SAP sales executive, the most important thing to me is to be able to deliver on the promises I make to my customers. And SAP allows me to do that.
That's great to hear. And great segue with great products into our conversations with some of the top CPG CIOs. So excited to hand it over to Tom Krazit, our executive editor at Protocol. Stephanie, thank you again so much for having us. And thank you to SAP for the partnership. Tom, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today. I was wondering if we could start off maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, your current role, and your background, how you got to this point.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. So, in general, my name is Parag Agrawal. I've been with Chobani for about 7.5 years. I've been CIO at Chobani for about 3 years now, and I have got responsibility across all areas of technology. Whether it's business apps, whether it's cybersecurity, infrastructure, I cover every aspect of technology across the globe for Chobani.
Great. So obviously over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of disruption in the way that, traditional IT has been thought of and how it's provisioned and how it's deployed. And I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about how that experience has affected your company in terms of the way you think about, not only deploying resources to developers internally, but also just, managing a global workforce.
Yeah, so, the world has become more flatter. As over the last couple of years with pandemic, so with everybody being able to work remotely, more and more what we have been seeing is that, people don't necessarily need to come to the office. They can really work remotely, and we have enabled that for all of our employees. And, as I said, the world has become flatter, so people can work from anywhere, whenever they want. And, we are allowing for some of that flexibility, but we are also looking and ensuring that, hey, the culture of being together is also very, very important. So we are not giving up on that yet, but again, the flexibility has been provided. But as far as the strategy is concerned, we usually believe in having a 3-year roadmap for technology in general. And we were lucky, knock on wood, that we had some of the strategy in place before the pandemic came in. And over the pandemic, what we have realized is that we were on the right track. If you look at some recent days or probably recent year or so, like supply chain has been a big issue, correct? Not just us, everybody has been hit with a lot of supply chain issues across the world and across the globe. And more we are figuring it out that how technology plays a great role in terms of making sure that everything is at the right place at the right time. And but we already had the roadmap for that. So we are working towards ensuring that we have got a big-time integrated business planning, and we are looking at some of the technologies from SAP as well to ensure that, our supply and demand planning all comes together and we can roll it out in the right way so that we can minimize the disruption because of all the supply chain issues which we are seeing.
Just to back up a little bit, you mentioned that, you felt you got lucky, and I luck is preparation, I would say, in a lot of ways.
Yes.
From a really high level, though, can you give us a better sense of what you did that had you prepared for this this cycle of disruption?
So we always knew that, as the business is scaling up, we need to have a proper view inside our supply chain, between our demand and the supply, both sides of it. So we were doing really good on the demand side of it, correct? We had a full-blown technology to stand behind our demand planning, and we have been doing that for years. On the supply planning side of it, we have started the work. I'm not saying that we are out of the woods yet, but we were already thinking along those lines. So we have got good enough plans in terms of bringing all the data, all the systems together in order to bring supply and demand together. So again, when I said we had plans in place, doesn't mean that we have rolled it out fully. We are still working on those plans, but it's not that we suddenly got up one day in the middle of the pandemic and said, hey, we got to do this, because we already had that in our roadmap.
From an infrastructure standpoint, how is the company structured at the moment, in terms of, I would presume you're in a hybrid cloud situation at the moment, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how that's evolved and how you think that will evolve into the future.
So I will go a little bit back. In 2018, we started a transformational journey at Chobani. And at that point, we decided to relook at our front end and the back end. And as part of that, we started deploying SAP, and we deployed SAP in 2019 with the latest version of SAP S4. And at the same time, we also went into a hyperscaler cloud. So all of our corporate systems are 100% in the cloud. So, we are a very young company and very modern company, and that helped us. We didn't have a big legacy baggage. So as part of our transformation, we were able to move not just SAP, but all the other applications that we have in a footprint as well into the cloud. And, we use one of the 3 big ones which are available in the market as our cloud strategy. And we have got a single cloud strategy.
I was just going to ask you about that. Was that deliberate? Have you considered using more than one cloud provider? I hear a lot of people talking about it. It's a little bit harder to find people who are putting it into place effectively, and I just was curious what your take on that was.
That's a great question. We have debated internally about single cloud versus hybrid cloud strategy, and again, I would say that we are single cloud from the point of view of on-prem systems, correct? Now, today's world is going more and more towards SaaS, so we have got a lot of SaaS applications which are in different clouds because we don't have a control on that. If we have an option, we would like that SaaS application to be hosted in our preferred cloud. But if we don't have an option, then we have got different clouds. So in that way, we are hybrid cloud. But for any on-prem application, we have decided to go with a single cloud because, first of all, we are a medium-sized company. We are not a Fortune 500, correct? So we have got limited resources, and we try to do more with less. And in terms of doing more with less, hybrid cloud is a pretty decent strategy, but again, as you increase your footprint, you need more skill set, you need more people to manage it. And we did, cost-benefit analysis of that, and we felt that for a company like ours, we are okay to go with a single cloud. And some of those big cloud providers are so big that we have got full trust in them, If one of them goes down, half of the world is going down along with that. So we took that chance, and we are sticking to it, but that's what our strategy is, single cloud strategy.
Is there anything in your mind that would change that, in terms of, is it a cost advantage, or, would it be, some sort of service becomes available uniquely on one of the other major cloud providers that you're using that you realize is, could really unlock something for your business? Just curious about that.
If there is a real value which can be unlocked, because we have not seen any real value which is being unlocked, except that you are just mitigating some of the risk by going to hybrid cloud. But as I said, the human resources which are needed are more, financial resources which are needed are more, correct? I mean, you say, and then again, as you go into hybrid cloud, the cost of just data being moved from one cloud to another cloud also goes up. So the only benefit is mitigating that risk, and that risk at this point is, in our eyes, is so low, and it's worth taking that we are going with the single cloud. But if the dynamics changes, correct, and if it can be cost neutral and easy to manage, probably we'll look at it, because yes, it does mitigate some of the risk, but it's not worth our time and money at this point.
One thing I also wanted to ask you about was, in terms of transformation, I talked to a lot of people in your position who have really, over the last couple of years, started to unlock value from investments in data analytics, and even AI to some extent.
Yeah.
And there are, people are at different points along that journey, I'd say. And so I'm curious, where your company is and how you think about, strategic use of data analytics tools or even AI tools, and whether or not that's something that's moved the needle for you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is on top of my mind. In fact, I was talking to somebody, this morning, earlier in the morning, about analytics, and our current focus, our prime focus today is around analytics, because we have made so much of investment in SAP, and the beauty around that is ultimately, we are unifying the data by bringing all this SAP technologies together. And on top of that, we have got something called SAP Cloud Analytics, which we have bought from them. And we are trying to do analytics using SAC, which is SAP's platform. And right now, I think we have had a great run, but again, we are just getting started. Mm-hmm. I think the team is doing great. So what we are trying to do is we are doing the financial planning, we are doing analytics, and we are looking at predictive as well. And from the analytics point of view, I'm very proud to say that there are things which I thought were myth, but we were able to make it successful. So,
can you give me an example?
Yes, yeah. I'm going to talk about that. So, with SAP, we have got a live connection with SAP. So we don't replicate our SAP data. So typically, the way you do analytics is, you have got your transactional system, and then you take the data out from the transactional system and put it in a data warehouse, and then you run analytics on top of the data warehouse. So that means if you are looking at your system landscape, you have got, for your transactional stuff, you have got production, high availability, and then DR. And then you copy that data into data warehouse, and the data warehouse also has got data warehouse production, high availability, and the DR. That means your data is replicated 6 times now. So instead of that, what we are doing is we are not creating a data warehouse with SAP. We had this discussion, and they sold us SAP Cloud Analytics with the assumption that we can do a live connection either from production, HA, or DR. Our production and HA, high availability servers, have got a difference of a couple of seconds. So we are not taxing our production box, but we are using high availability servers to connect directly to our analytics. That means there is a delay of a couple of seconds, and the data is not being replicated. So that's a big win. So we are working towards that. We have got pretty decent success on that, but much more to come. Much more to come on that, but we are very, very excited about that. And that's when we are going to really realize the benefit of all of our investments in SAP.
How about for AI, though? Is that something that makes sense for your company at this stage, or?
So AI makes sense, but AI has got different versions too, I'll tell you. Sure. AI, people talk about AI, is AI the same as predictive? You say, is AI, a little bit of RPA? People use AI in different ways. I think we are going to take baby steps. We are going to first go with predictive. Mm-hmm. Then, and we are doing a lot of work on the RPA side as well. So we are going to do, predictive, RPA, and then we're going to also do a little bit of a machine learning, which is also part of, predictive as well, because predictive happens based on machine learning. And then we will eventually go to AI. But so we are not just going to make the big leap, because it's a journey, and we are just getting started. And we're going to start with predictive, and there's some common use cases which we might be looking at in the very near future on predictive.
So shifting gears slightly, as you talk about the importance of data, and you talk about how important it is to be able to analyze that mm-hmm. data, generally cybersecurity concerns come in right at that point.
Absolutely.
And so I'd love to hear more from you about how you manage those concerns, especially in the CPG world where, I would imagine you're sharing a lot of data with partners, with retailers, with, both externally and internally. And so, what kind of approach have you taken towards making sure that data stays where it needs to be?
So, you are asking all the questions which are always on top of mind for all the CIOs, data, analytics, and cybersecurity. So cybersecurity, you cannot be ever ahead of the game, correct? You're always chasing your tail, and you're always trying to educate yourself and make sure that, you stay as aware as possible and you are as educated as possible. So what we do is, a lot of cybersecurity is about educating your workforce. So we have got a very robust education program in terms of educating our workforce on what to do or what not to do, because one simple mistake by somebody in the organization can create a havoc. So I'm lucky that we are fortunate we have got pretty decent team on the cybersecurity, and they work through that. In terms of data, we are doing a lot of effort to categorize the data so that we can ensure that what kind of data we have and where the data is being passed around. So we have got a full-blown data. When I say full-blown, it's a very small team, but we have got a team, which is a data governance team, and they try to tag every type of data that we have, and they try to keep track of where the data is going, where the data is coming from, and where the data is going. And anybody who has access to the data is an authorized person. So those are the kinds of things which we do, to say. And then on top of that, we have got a fully established SOC, which is being run by one of our partners, out of India, and they continuously monitor it, to ensure that we don't have any issues going on, correct? But the main thing is data governance and education. Those are the two aspects which help us ensure that we have got full control of where the data is coming and going from.
Now, I wanted to come back to something you mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking about the infrastructure cloud strategy, which was the resourcing and like finding the people in order to execute a multi-cloud strategy. I talk to a lot of CIOs, and just finding talent in general still seems to be a huge problem for just about everybody, up and down the scale. And there's a certain ease, I guess, that companies operating with technology as their primary business have in attracting talent that I would think would be a little more difficult for companies operating in CPG or in outside of really the main Silicon Valley hubs to attract that talent. So I just would love to hear from you about how you think about that, how you plan for it, and how you've managed to find the folks you need to keep your operation running.
Yes, it has always been a challenge, and lately with the whole Great Resignation movement, it has been even a bigger challenge. And so what we try to do is, our going in vision was always that keep the team lean, but we try to hire the best of the best, right? We don't have a deep bench, but we have got best of the best we try to hire, and then we augment the rest of the staff through our partners. So we have got partners, across the world who help us with a lot of stuff, but majority of the architects are within Chobani. And then what we are trying to do is, with all this Great Resignation movement which is happening, plus more, we try to make sure that it's not just about the financial aspect of it. You need to keep the work interesting. And we have been on a transformation journey for the last 3-4 years, and we are continuing that. And we try to make sure that not only do we pay our people well, but we also keep the work interesting, and we are also investing in them. So we invest. I believe that my organization is a learning organization, and as part of my whole goals for my team, every year I make sure that everybody has got a training plan, because I want to continuously invest in my people, and they feel that the company is investing in it, so they are more invested in the company as well. And at the same time, we keep the work interesting, and because of the transformational nature, if the work is interesting, everybody wants to learn. If they want to grow, correct? Yes, there will be people who will jump here and there for a little bit of extra money and all, and that's fine, correct? And the thing is, I personally believe, and my leadership team believes in building leaders. So our strategy is, you come work with Chobani, learn from us, give your vision to Chobani, give your expertise to Chobani, take it to the next level, and it's part of your journey, right? So people will come and go, and it's fine. We want to make sure that we develop more leaders, we celebrate them, but at the same time, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and we continuously invest in our people, because that's for us, and if you keep the work interesting, people will stay.
I'd imagine there's a lot of CIOs who are in your position and are struggling though to get their upper management, their board, to really buy into the notion of needing to invest in people and continuous improvements and all of that, moving past the cost center mentality. How did you do that? Like, what are the ways that other people can pursue that?
I think it's a tricky question because every company is different, but I'll tell you that I've been very fortunate that our founder and our president, they both believe in it. We believe, it's culturally there in Chobani that we are a people-focused company and we want to invest in our people because we are what we are because of our people, correct? And if you ignore them, it's not going to work out. And so we always want to be, in every way, we want to take care of our people. And I would say that you need to think long-term. And if you don't invest in your people in today's market, you are not going to be able to keep the people, correct? It's a, either you can take a short-term approach or a long-term approach, and you better take a long-term approach. Yes, even after investing, is that you're not going to have any attrition? No, you're still going to have an attrition, but you're going to minimize that attrition. And again, people will come around. I have seen, because of the way people work, I have seen in my personal career that I have worked with folks who have, and when I have moved on from that company, they have come to me and said, because of the way you approach things, we would like to come and work for you. And they have come back and they now work for me because of that mentality. And they're all top guns, and I'm lucky and proud to have them back on my team. And I think it's an investment. It's a long-term investment, and that's how you need to think about it.
And so with the little bit of time we have left, I would just be curious about, if there's an emerging technology or a, something relatively new concept that's on the horizon that has you excited, that you think has the potential to transform your business or the way you operate, what would you pick?
We have been doing POC with some aspects of AI, which we talked a little bit earlier, correct? I was very excited about it. We are figuring it out, some of the nuance around that, and I'm very excited about that, correct? But at the same time, I feel that it's easier said than done, and we have been working on it for a while now, for almost a year, and we have not been able to really maximize the benefit. It has gone up to 70-80% of what it should be doing, but that's not good enough. It needs to be at 100%. Otherwise, you are giving your business something which is not 100% ready and giving them something which is inferior to what they're doing, even though they are doing it a little bit in a more tedious way. So I'm very much excited about the AI side of it. And then analytics in general, I think that, we are just scratching the surface. And we are trying to ensure that, just the vision of unifying the data and bringing it all together so that the business folks are really working on generating the insights rather than hunting for the data, it just gave me a goosebumps and excites me. It's such a simple thing, and we have been talking about it for years, but I don't think anybody has done it perfectly. And everybody is making a try, but, again, and we are also trying it, but I think the success which we had so far, I'm very proud of it, very proud of my team, what they have done, but much, much more to come. So those are the two things which I'm very excited about. And then there are other things which we do on the infrastructure side, which, I'm proud, but we have already achieved that level about being 100% in the cloud. My infrastructure has done an amazing job of, doing, rolling patches and stuff like that, where we have got almost zero downtime with SAP, which is amazing. And my business loves it, and I love it as well.
That's great. Well, we'll have to see how that plays out over the next couple of years. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Ravi. Thanks for being here today. I was wondering if you could start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got to be here.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. Just a little bit of myself. I'm the CIO of Edgewell Personal Care. For the folks that don't know Edgewell, we are a consumer goods company that is well known for brands like Playtex, Schick, Banana Boat, Hawaiian Tropic, and few others. We are a global firm operating in 50 plus markets. Personally, I've been with Edgewell for the last few years. Before that, I've been in the CPG space, primarily with companies like Henkel, Mead Johnson, Wolverine Worldwide, and even Masco, which is a home improvement firm. All global companies in the consumer space working with kind of improving lives of customers.
So did you start with Edgewell right about the time the pandemic hit?
Yes, I think I joined right after the first month of pandemic, which is very interesting times.
I bet.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that experience. You know, how things had to change, how technology played a role in helping you change, and you know what you've learned, I guess, along that way.
Yeah, I think I would treat it on both sides. One, how the company adjusted and what IT should be doing to help the company manage the disruption. And second, personally, how I felt joining a firm remotely as a leader, right? So on the company side, I think we had big bets in technology. Even we migrated to Microsoft Teams. Even we didn't anticipate pandemic, but anticipating there's a need for technology innovation. So that really helped. We are like 3 months into the rollout, and then when the pandemic hit, we were able to kind of migrate our workforce fully remote, like using Microsoft technology and whatnot. We could have gone to Zoom, we could have gone other places, but then we invested in one and that worked out, proved to be working, right? And the second adjustment we had to do is how do we make sure collaboration continues to happen, we don't lose momentum. That has been a challenge and continue to be a challenge. We continue to innovate in that space. Working with Microsoft on some of the innovation coming out of the teams and the collaborative experiences, whatnot. So that kind of changed the pace, and we had to really react faster to our business needs. The coffee talks, the coffee discussions went away, so everything is a meeting, and we had to adjust, like, how do we reduce the number of meetings so the productivity is still there. So those kind of things are the challenges that we had to overcome. On the personal front, leading is different in a pandemic world. I joined right starting when all the teams are starting to work remotely. I haven't met teams in person. So that leading remotely is a challenge. IT especially is even more challenging because I couldn't meet my team. My team cannot meet the business to have the discussions, the process designs, the technology designs that needs to happen. So that was a challenge. I think the problem is just had to work through it and run through it to manage the disruption. On the flip side, I think what helped is our technology investments did not let us down. We invested in our network, our VPN capabilities. Obviously, I told you about the Microsoft investments. Those worked. So if you ask our business team, yeah, we had disruption, but we could bank on our IT team that it really worked, and we didn't feel the pain as much as we supposed to, you know.
Can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, at a high level, some of those investments that you made? I think that's what a lot of people in your situation like to have a little background about, is how other people have navigated these kinds of transitions. And
yeah.
I'm just curious where you know, from a networking standpoint, data center standpoint, you know, how you've thought about making those investments over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think from a data center, we are on a cloud transformation journey, so we are investing. That's whether it's pandemic or not, that's the journey, a strategic direction we are moving. But in terms of network, we had to bump up our network capabilities across the globe. We had to work with our partners to increase that capability across the board. We have to negotiate pricing with the partners because suddenly our offices, who used to see hundreds of people using network, right down to 10, 15, and we are paying the same amount to our network provider. So we had to negotiate that, but at the same time increase the WAN services or WAN speeds. So that kind of one investment, working with the partners and making sure where to put the money in versus a site versus a wide area network. The other pieces is VPN capabilities. We had to quickly ramp up our VPN capabilities because suddenly like 5,000 plus employees are starting to work on VPN, while historically it's like 500. So that's a huge change. So we had to invest in VPN licensing and those capabilities. Also educating users on how to do, when to need VPN, when you don't need the VPN. The other pieces we invested in is hardware, like making sure the laptops can be deployed, they are up to date. making sure we provide training to users how to connect displays, external displays or printers at home and things of that nature. We had to also separate network traffic that's going to internet versus corporate systems to not choke the performance, right? So those are the few things we had to really do very, very quickly, right? Like the first 3 months are really critical to make sure all this happened so that the business team, on top of the pandemic, working remotely and all that personal disruption, they can still at least do their job.
Where would you say you are in your data center to cloud journey at the moment, and how did that accelerate due to the events of the last couple of years, and how you think about internal development platforms and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I would say we just started the strategy when this COVID thing happened, and we had to be really tactical because we had to step up and ensure things work when our teams started working remotely. But then that definitely accelerated our cloud journey for multiple reasons. One, we need scalability, reliability of our back-end systems, our data center services. At the same time, it needs to be cheaper, right? And what pandemic taught us is how can we emerge stronger out of it? How can we be more cost efficient? So on both fronts, being resilient, being actually making sure it's stable and performing pretty well to our demand from a data center perspective, as well as cost efficient. Those are the two pillars I would say we had to always balance in a CPG world, and that kind of accelerated the journey. So where we are today is we are in progress of that journey. I would say it's obviously a multi-year journey. We are kind of year one of the journey. Things are moving well at this point.
Do you anticipate remaining hybrid for an extended period of time, or do you see a scenario in which you become completely cloud native?
Yeah, I feel it will be hybrid. I don't think we will ever be in the CPG space cloud native. We just have peripheral systems, ecosystems. If we just talk to SAP, yeah, it can be cloud native. Like we can always move to cloud. Rise is another program and whatnot. But we have other systems, the trade promo systems that are unique to CPG industry. Some of the consolidation systems in the financials or the e-com systems that we have for digital, those don't go well unless you see the whole ecosystem. So personally, my opinion, we will be hybrid going forward.
I'm curious about that. You sort of referenced it there that CPG is a unique industry and there are unique requirements that perhaps you have that other people who may be watching this don't fully understand but could maybe learn something from. Are there other things that you've noticed are unique to the industry that require you to take a different approach than maybe others would?
Yeah, I mean, beyond the systems, I would say trade promotion is one of the systems you don't really see outside of CPG or in a manufacturing. Like if you go to a retail store, Walmart, you will see all those coupons. Like there is a planning that goes into that, which is pretty unique to CPG space. And then the way is we are in the middle, so we have to work with, as a company and a manufacturer, we have to work with retailers, right? Like Walmarts and Costco's and all the big box ones. At the same time, we have to work with the direct consumer because we also appeal to the consumer, because at the end of the day, they are the ones buying our products. So it's always a challenge to keep up. How do we manage the omni-channel experience with the consumer on top of working with customers like Walmarts and Costco's and drugstores, making sure all that kind of works in tandem. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic in CPG space. The other one in CPG space is because we are in this like consumer products, and we have to prove value to our retailers, value to the consumers for our products. So it's always about where do we invest correctly. So we are not like a pharma or drug business where we have a lot of margin, right? So we have to really spend the right ways. And that's another challenge in CPG, especially in IT, is how do we take out costs in places where we don't need and put it in the right places? That's always a unique challenge for CPG.
Okay, so I mean, along those lines, when you think about places to invest, I'm curious where you are in terms of investment in data analytics, even moving towards AI. Yeah. I talk to a lot of CIOs who it feels like the last couple of years they've really just started to understand what they want out of those investments and how to go and get what they need. And I'm just curious where you stand at the moment.
Yeah, for me personally, I want to go behind the buzzwords, right? Like data analytics has been there, AI we are hearing a lot, last several years, almost 6, 7 years. Blockchain technologies out there too, right?
Easy
Like
now.
the crypto with all that. So there's a lot of noise in the air, and being CPG, as I said, we don't get a blank check to just go invest, try things out, unless it provides value, true value to our consumers and for quite frankly our business. For me, I think the biggest investment I see, especially in the CPG space or even at our firm, data analytics continues to be a heavy driver. We want to make sure we can help our businesses, whether it's e-com or even wholesale, with data, actionable data that they can get insights from and then act accordingly, right? Like that continues to be a big investment. Cybersecurity, not to discount that, it's just a risk mitigation tactic. What can I reduce risk? Cybersecurity is top notch there. And simplification, I would say, is another one. Because of the numerous systems we have, how do we automate certain things and simplify the way we do business is another driver. So any investment in that place will be very interesting for me personally. So data analytics, cybersecurity for risk mitigation, and then I would say simplification and automation. Are we investing in AI? Yeah, we're scratching the surface, but then unless it becomes a meaningful product for us that again drives value to our consumers and customers, we're not. We probably will do AI within data analytics space with respect to the algos. But there's a lot to desire there. I'm waiting for the right product that can unlock the value for our enterprise.
Okay. I want to pull back to something you just mentioned, which is, of course, on the top of everyone's mind, which is cybersecurity. And it would seem you're in a unique position that way in that, not only did you go from, everyone had to deal with this a little bit, everyone working remotely, everyone, usage patterns changing, the way that people access corporate resources. But it would also seem that you have a unique challenge in the CPG space in that you have a ton of partners that you need to share sensitive data with and vice versa, I would imagine. How do you think about that? Has there been an evolution in your thinking based on the challenges of the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think I would say yes, there has been a change. First of all, internally, culturally, within our executive team, we had to bring up awareness of the cybersecurity risk, which was not there. Like CPG, we always talk about how do we make the next sale to the next retailer, right? Like make the product with better COGS or less overhead, whatnot. But then there's that cyber security risk that's looming, and we're seeing it in the news recently, right? Quite a lot. And the first thing is awareness within the organization of what is that risk mean for us, both from regular employees as well as the executive team, and then also investing in the right things, in having a proper strategy, investing in right controls and protections, whatnot, would be critical in my opinion. So that kind of helped. And one of the things is it's like insurance, right? Like you don't want to spend money on cybersecurity for something that may happen in future, but then the risk of that happening is getting better and better. So it's like you're in a worse situation if you don't invest in cybersecurity now. Because again, if you don't have an insurance and you end up in an accident, what's the protection? The same way cybersecurity. That's how I treat it. That's how I explain to our team is, hey, you can choose not to invest or not to have an insurance. It's your choice. But then when something bad happens, we can't blame ourselves, right? Like, so that's the balance. And it's also, again, as I said, balancing, right? How much of an investment? I mean, if you look at cybersecurity realm, from awareness to data protection to supply chain risk, which you mentioned, there's a ton of things. So identifying areas that are relevant for the enterprise and investing there. To your point, I think we put better boundaries within our enterprise, so we are not an easy target out there. At the same time, we work with supply chain, all our vendors, to make sure they follow certain rigor, especially if we are sharing data. That's, as you mentioned, that is not an issue 2-3 years ago, where I think a business can just work with a partner and then send data because they showed some nice looking dashboards. Now, no. I mean, from an IT, procurement, legal, we put certain guardrails so that we vet out our partners, ensure they follow our process and in terms of data protection and prevention. So those things helped. It's not always technology, it's the people, awareness, and then the process behind how do we onboard, offboard suppliers.
You mentioned something that I bet a lot of CIOs would want to know, who have been in a similar position to you as well, which was the need to elevate cybersecurity as a concern to your management team and to your board as well, I would presume. How did you do that? That's a question I think a lot of people are dealing with.
Yeah, I think one of the things that helped is truly media, I would say, right? Like when Colonial Pipeline hit, or a SolarWinds hack happened, or if the White House is tweeting about it, that really helped. Like, oh, what's happening, right? And there's also our SEC changing rules of disclosures and stuff, and that our finance team is now, oh, what SEC is asking something to file. What is this? And the board start to see all these news and asking, oh, what are we doing? Are we at risk or not? So I think that really helped, right? Like that interest from our leadership helped. And personally, what I do is be proactive, right? Like our enterprise or our company may not be affected by a certain cybersecurity event, but be proactive, provide a report out to the executives, to the management team, so that they are aware, okay, I think we have our our ducks in the row, and we got things covered. And it also improves the confidence. Oh, we have this leader taking care of it. Even though it didn't impact, I understand what happened with Colonial Pipeline. I understand what happened with SolarWinds. So that awareness, again, that confidence builder will help have more strategic discussions on what's the strategy look like for cybersecurity? When do we do what, in terms of cybersecurity space, or more broadly, information security space?
Sure. I mean, another struggle that I hear CIOs, grapple with all the time is talent, finding talent and finding people, to be able to solve some of these challenges. And there are inherent advantages that companies working in the technology industry have. It seems, when it comes to sourcing that talent. For companies working in an industry like CPG, I would imagine that's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you've tried to make that work for you.
Yeah, I won't discount that. Yeah, talent is getting harder and harder to acquire. The challenge with CPG space is, again, we are not like, if anybody tries to find who Edgewell is versus who is Meta, who is Google, there's a difference, right? So the talent out there knows the bigger tech firms that has the bells and whistles than the companies like us. So that won't make it easy from a recruiting standpoint, right? Like there's just lack of awareness compared to some of the big players. And then the other piece of the puzzle we are happening generally in industry, like even the big players are struggling, is just lack of number capacity. We just don't have the capacity. We have jobs, but we don't have the right talent groups and the skill set we need. And it's not just unique to, let's say, North America or Europe or Asia. It's across the globe. I talk to all my partners. They have the same challenge. They're trying to do recruiting and net inflow of people into the organization, but still it's not helping. It continues to be a challenge for the next, I would say, 12 months. What we do is develop the culture. Like, I mean, the thing what pandemic did, to be transparent, is created a void with culture, right? Because you're in front of a screen, you don't know the people, you haven't met the people, you don't know the ecosystem of the company or culture of the company, or at least especially if you join, right? Like, there's no sticking factor. And that's a really big thing. And that's why back to office or a hybrid work model, we are really banking on that to develop the culture, develop that sticking factor. People know beyond the job, oh, this is the company culture, I like it. Oh, these are the sustainability things, I like it, I want to work for here. Not because somebody's paying more, not because I just find a new challenge. So we want to create that environment. It's not easy, there's no easy challenge. I mean, if it's just the incentive, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bidding war. Like, I can pay and another company pays more higher, Google pays even higher, or somebody else pays. it's not anymore the bidding war. We have to prove to the talent that beyond incentives, the culture is great. This is the company you want to work for. This is the team I want to work for. This is the management or leadership that I want to work for. That's what we are trying to create. It's a slow, and we believe that's what solves the problem versus trying to just bump up incentives and make it more financial. Yeah, we will do that, but on top of it, we have to do cultural and process-related awareness to the talent. Yeah.
And so I have one last question, which is just, if there's a technology or an evolving, discipline within enterprise tech right now that has you really excited, that you think is really going to transform the way your company works or your business works, could you pick one?
Yeah, I would say virtual reality is probably very interesting for us, along with not the crypto side of the blockchain, but more on
inventory management,
right? Removing the middlemen or middle layers. So those two, I would say, very interesting. Given consumer, how the consumers can experience our products, not physically with the product, right? Like that's the virtual reality experience. So I think we can bank on it. And on the digital tech stack side, how do we leverage the blockchain technology to remove the middle layers, remove the complexity, and keep the transactions simplified? So those two will be very interesting for me to watch out in the next few years. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Ravi, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tom. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks again to Ravi and Parag for sharing their thoughts today. Please come back to Protocol Enterprise for more on these topics over the months and years to come. And you can always sign up for our daily Protocol Enterprise newsletter as well to get detailed updates on the news of the day and these ongoing discussions. And thanks once again.